Hey there, friends. My name's Matthew. I'm the C# artisan, and this little video is on the cooperative cancellation pattern. Now, last week I was in Houston, and I had the great pleasure of giving a talk to the Houston.net users group. And in the course of things, the topic of cooperative cancellation came up, and we had a good discussion. And I do cover this a little bit in one of my threads videos, but I thought it really makes sense to give it a proper, dedicated treatment. So what is cooperative cancellation? Basically, if you have any long-running process, particularly something where you are awaiting the result, and you want to break out of that, essentially do like a Control-C and say, okay, I no longer want to wait, or I want that long-running process to stop, you want to be able to do it in a way which is controlled and predictable. You don't want to do the software equivalent of just pulling the power plug and watching everything go dark. So that's what cooperative cancellation is all about. And basically, the technique involves sending a token of some sort into the thing that you might want to cancel. And then that thing just has to pay attention to the token. And if the token gets activated, meaning a cancellation request has been put in, then it needs to cancel. It's really simple code, so let's just dive into Visual Studio and have a look. I've got us a little test program called the Cooperative Cancellation Test. And what it does is it calls cancelable task.execute, passing in a delay. So what does this do? That's where the real action is. So cancelable task execute looks like this. First, we generate an ID. This will come in handy later when we've got multiple tasks going in parallel and we want to keep track of them. Then it logs the fact that it's starting. It formats a URI to an Azure function that I have running. And then it calls HTTP client.getAsync. So it awaits an HTTP call. Now, if you've watched some of the other videos, you may be familiar with this Azure function. This Azure function simply waits. You just pass in a delay in approximate seconds, and it just waits for that amount of time and then returns. So once we get our response, this function just logs the fact that it completed. It's really very simple. So let's run it so that you have a sense of what this basic execute function is doing. So I just started the code running, and whoop. Now we're going to press enter to start, and you can see that at 13:24 it began calling with 3 seconds, and then just a little over 3 seconds later, it ended with HTTP response OK. So that's our basic little task. And the reality is right now, it is not yet cancelable. So if we launched it with the long duration, like 10 seconds, we really have no way to stop it. So that's what we're going to do now, is we are going to implement this as a cancelable task. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a parameter here called cancellation token. And then when we call client.getAsync, that actually, almost all of the async methods will allow you to pass in a cancellation token. So that is what is going to allow this to stop early and not necessarily await for a result. So now back in our program, what we need to do before we call execute is we have to create a cancellation token source. And then when we call our function execute, we're going to pass in token source dot token. So that's going to generate a token from the token source, and it's going to pass it to this function, which then will pass it into our awaitable. Now, one thing you'll notice is I am not awaiting this line. I don't want to block here. I want to kick the task off and allow my main thread to keep working, right? It's a background task. So it's going to go do its thing. And this message pump, this main function, keeps working. So now we can do something like this. We can say console.writeLine, task started, press enter to cancel. And then we'll do console.readLine. And as soon as we press enter, what we'll do is we'll say token source dot cancel. So we use the token source to control the token. We don't keep track of the token, and you'll see why. There may be many tokens. We just keep track of the token source and call cancel. And now to make this a little more obvious, let's increase our time delay to 10 seconds. Let's run this and see what happens. I'll bring my window over. So we'll press enter to start. And now it's waiting, right? It's starting. But before 10 seconds are up, I hit enter and it exits. Oh, I forgot to do one thing. Let's put a little console.readLine at the end. That makes it a little easier to see. So I'm going to press enter, and before 10 seconds are up, enter again, and our task just stops. You see, it just halts. And we can even, log something here if we want to. But what you'll notice, a couple things you'll notice, is that we never got to this line of code, right? It didn't log anything about the response. When we canceled this, it just kind of exited immediately. So that's a little bit awkward, right? We kind of would like to give this function a chance to maybe clean up and shut down gracefully. I mean, that's the whole point. So the way we do that is as follows. We'll say try, and then we'll do this inside of a try, and then we're going to catch a task canceled exception. So when you cancel a task using your cancellation token source, let's put that up here, it actually throws an exception. And because this is running inside of a task, that exception just kind of gets swallowed and disappears into this task, which is never returned. And so that's why we didn't actually get an exception bubbling up to our main function, right? It just got swallowed there. But we can handle it. And then we can do something like this. Log ID task or execute was canceled. Now when we run this, and we'll start it off, and before 10 seconds, and then we get right away that the execution was canceled. So there you go. That is the basic technique. Where this really comes in handy is when you've got lots of these going on. So just for fun, let's do this. Let's say for int I equals 1, I less than or equal, less than or equal to 5, I plus plus. We will launch the task in there, and then let's just do thread.sleep by a quarter second just to space them out a little bit. And then we'll say task started, press enter to cancel. So as soon as I press enter, it's going to launch 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them. And if I press enter, boom, they all just cancel. They all stop on a dime. So there you go. That is cooperative cancellation. It's really easy, and it is a great technique to know about. Hey there, C# friends. Are you enjoying these videos and finding them helpful? I hope so. And if you are, please go ahead and like the video on YouTube. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel and feel free to leave a comment. I would love to hear from you.